Sit down, cadets. Eyes front. Today marks the beginning of your real education. You have read the history books. You have seen the statues in the Grand Plaza, but you do not know the truth. Not yet. Look at the map behind me. Sector 7. Empty space. Dust and echoes. 80 years ago, that was the heart of the Krell Empire. They were masters of plasma technology. They had a fleet of 3,000 warships. They had conquered 12 sentient species, breaking their spirits and turning them into servants. And then, they made a mistake. They found a small, blue planet in the Sol system. They scanned us. They saw no plasma shields. They saw no laser batteries. They saw farmers, merchants, engineers. They thought we were weak. This is Case File 001, the Krell Mistake, or as we call it in the archives, the Awakening. The year was 2154. Humanity had just started expanding beyond Mars. We were optimistic. Naive, perhaps. Our transport ship, the Demeter, was carrying mining equipment and families to the Jupiter colonies. It had no weapons. Why would it? We thought we were alone, or at least safe. The Krell cruiser intercepted them near the asteroid belt. They didn't hail for peace. They didn't ask for trade. They broadcasted a single message, looped on all frequencies. Specimens of Sol. Surrender your vessel. Resistance is irrelevant. You are now property of the Krell Imperium. The captain of the Demeter tried to negotiate. He offered cargo. He offered fuel. But the Krell didn't want cargo. They wanted to send a message. They vaporized the ship. 300 men, women, and children. Gone in a flash of green light. The Krell commander, High Warlord Tsar, sent the recording of the destruction to Earth. He expected terror. He expected us to beg for mercy, to offer ourselves as slaves to avoid extinction. That is how it worked with the other 12 species they conquered. Fear was their currency. But Tsar didn't understand humans. He didn't know our history. He didn't know that for 5,000 years we fought each other over gods, over land, over resources. He didn't know that we had perfected the art of destruction long before we ever built a warp drive. When the video of the Demeter reached Earth, the planet didn't scream. It went silent. A terrifying, cold silence. That silence lasted for 6 months. The Krell fleet took their time. They moved slowly toward Earth, savoring the anticipation of our surrender. Warlord Tsar wanted to give us time to despair. That was his second mistake. He gave us time to prepare. In those 6 months, the United Nations dissolved. National borders became lines on a map that no longer mattered. The United Terran Federation was born, not out of diplomacy, but out of necessity. We stopped building luxury shuttles. We stopped building skyscrapers. Every factory on Earth, Luna, and Mars was repurposed. We didn't have the technology for plasma shields. We didn't have energy weapons, but we had something else. We had physics, and we had rage. We built the Ares-class dreadnoughts. They were not elegant. They were ugly, blocky mountains of titanium and steel. And down the center of each ship, we built a spinal railgun the size of a skyscraper. When the Krell fleet finally arrived in Earth's orbit, the sky turned black with their ships. 500 alien vessels glowing with green energy, surrounding our world. Warlord Tsar opened a channel to the surface. He laughed. He demanded our leaders kneel before him. In response, the newly formed Terran Armada rose from the dark side of the moon. Tsar's scanners were confused. He saw ships with no energy shielding. He saw ships using primitive chemical thrusters. He mocked us. He said, "You bring stones to a laser fight." General Stukov, the first commander of the Federation, replied with only one word: fire. You see, cadets, the Krell shields were designed to disperse energy. Lasers, plasma, heat. They were perfect against advanced weaponry. But they had never fought a species crazy enough to fire a solid slug of tungsten weighing 20 tons, accelerated to 3% of the speed of light. Sir Isaac Newton is the deadliest son of a bitch in space. When those rounds hit the Krell fleet, they didn't disperse. They didn't bounce off. They shattered the alien ships like glass. The kinetic energy of a single impact was equivalent to a tactical nuclear weapon, but focused on a single point. The Krell formation broke instantly. Their beautiful, elegant ships were torn apart by brute force. Warlord Tsar watched in horror as his flagship's shields held for a fraction of a second, before the main hull was simply deleted. But the battle wasn't just about technology. It was about spirit. When the Krell realized their shields were useless, they panicked. They tried to retreat. But humans, we are persistence hunters. It is in our DNA. We chased them. When our ships ran out of ammo, we rammed them. When our engines failed, we boarded them. There are recordings in the archives of Terran Marines fighting in vacuum, breaching Krell hulls with mining explosives and clearing rooms with shotguns. The Krell had never seen combatants who kept fighting after losing an arm. They had never seen soldiers who laughed in the face of death. To them, we were monsters. We were the demons of their mythology come to life. The Battle of Sol lasted 4 hours. Not a single Krell ship escaped to warn their empire. But we didn't stop there. We reverse-engineered their warp drives from the wreckage. We found the star charts in their computers. We found the location of their homeworld. It took us 2 years to build a fleet capable of the journey. The Retribution Fleet. When we arrived at the Krell homeworld, we didn't broadcast a demand for surrender. We didn't ask for slaves. We simply parked in orbit and blocked out their sun. The Krell Senate begged for mercy. They appealed to the Galactic Council. They cried out that humanity was barbaric, that we were violating the rules of civilized warfare. The Federation's response was broadcast to the entire galaxy. There are no rules when you murder our children. There is only consequences. We dismantled their military. We destroyed their shipyards. We toppled their government and liberated the 12 species they had enslaved. We didn't exterminate them. We did something worse. We made them irrelevant. We left them on their planet with no ships, no empire, and the knowledge that the primitive apes from Sol were watching them from the stars. Today, the Krell are a minor agricultural society. They teach their young ones to never look at the night sky with greed. They tell stories of the sleeping giant and why you must never, ever wake him up. This is the lesson of the First War, cadets. The galaxy thinks that civilization means elegance. They think power comes from advanced technology. But we know the truth. Power comes from the will to survive. Power comes from the ability to take a hit, spit out the blood, and get back up. Humanity is not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. But we are the most stubborn living things in this universe. And as long as the Terran Federation stands, no one will ever threaten us again. Study the tactical data from the Battle of Sol for your next exam. Specifically, focus on the kinetic velocity vectors. Class dismissed.